One. Hi, I'm Ramiro Nieto. I'm here with Kevin Moore, a percussionist and EDM music teacher at the Lakewood School of Rock. He was one of my mentors during an internship that I completed at that school. It's good to see you again, Kevin.
Good to see you too, brother.
Heck yeah. And would you mind if we recorded this and I put it on my website?
I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Awesome. All right, to begin with, I'd like to get some biographical questions out of the way. Firstly, how old are you and how many instruments do you play?
I am 41, and instruments that I play, instruments that I actually play biologically. I'm a drummer. I've been drumming since I was like 3 or 4 or 5, and singing all of my life. And then virtually, I play any instrument because I started taking up music production through the Ableton digital audio workstation roughly 10 years ago, which allows me to sample any instruments, create any sound, and kind of just like whittle sound and engineer sound in different ways.
Right. Awesome. And then you also do DJ stuff, right? And so what kind of DJ equipment did you start on?
Okay, so that's a good question. I actually did I started DJing as a transition from being like a drumline instructor. And one of my drumline buddies that was an instructor with me for one of the drumlines that I was teaching actually came to one of our rehearsals, and he had turntables. And so, you know, it was an interesting transition because I ended up going from one life to the other. You know, it was a thing to where I felt like being an instrumentalist beforehand and having a knowledge of theory and rhythm, like actual understanding of that before going into DJing, definitely benefited me. You know, I feel like what I've seen in the DJ world, there's a lot of DJ EDM type of people that are wanting to be involved, but they're at a disadvantage if they don't take the time to learn the theory and have an understanding. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was wondering what you started on. So turntables, but then a bunch of other info.
Turntables. Yeah. Okay. So now, though, for instance, I started on turntables, and now, it evolved into turntables, and then it was like, okay, at the end of the night, I'm the only person that can carry this heavy box. Like the thing is called a coffin that you put the turntables in, right? And so I'd be lugging this coffin around, not be, and it's just heavy, and like up and down steps, you never know where you're going to end up playing. And as my DJ brand started getting a little bit more momentum, I was doing more traveling. You find yourself just in a place where it's like, man, I don't want to hurt myself carrying around this heavy gear. Not to mention, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to check it on the plane, right?
Right.
So it just became a thing to where I wanted to go from the turntable thing into a more compact way of playing, which ended up I started DJing in Serato, and now I DJ in Ableton, which is also where I create music. Ableton allows me to trigger songs by MIDI, and it also allows me to DJ seamlessly and tell a story. It also allows me to bring in samples and do things live, as well as put live effects on it as well. Whenever I'm DJing now, I'll have a drum pad with me, which is a Roland SPD-SX, as well as an Akai. Now I have an MPD 249, which is a 4-octave keyboard with 16 pads, 8 faders, and 8 knobs, right? And it's a MIDI controller, so I can literally program a function to each individual knob fader, right? It's like a MIDI keyboard is like saying, all right, painter, here's your easel, here is your canvas, here is the thing that holds the paints, here's your brush. Right?
Right.
So it's like literally everything you need, now go. You got to come up with paint. You got to grab paints, So that's kind of what Ableton has allowed. And that's how I perform. It gives me the functionality of being able to do the live thing, drumming on top of the beats that are being played live, right? Because there's no doubt about it. When DJing, most of the time, you're pushing play, you're dancing, and you're acting like you're twisting knobs and waiting for the next song, and then you're pushing play, right? You were there. We did DJ. We
Yeah.
did DJ camps. Yeah. So, and it's fun. It is very fun because it allows you to take music that's not necessarily yours, or music that, that you love, and try to match it up with other musics that you love, or, try your hand at maybe making an original production, but that's
Awesome.
the thing about the DJ culture. Go ahead. I know you got more questions.
Yeah. All right.
I can ramble on about it.
It's all good. All right. Final, biographical question. How long have you been a teacher, and how long have you been a musician?
Oh, musician, man, basically all my life, dude. Really musician. I started officially in 6th grade. But as far as teaching, I started teaching right out of high school, man. I was fortunate enough, my parents really backed my dream of being a drummer, and that's really what I always wanted to do. And so I got to do that, and I marched drum and bugle corps throughout my high school years, right? So I was really, and coming from Missouri is, it's farm-based, economy. And so I definitely had to go out of state to do my drum corps thing and practice. And so that allowed me to see things, but it also got me teaching at an earlier age because I had a much better understanding, so I started teaching like high school and college lines right out of high school. Really? I was writing and composing drumline books for marching bands was my main start into teaching.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so getting into my main bulk of the questions, what made you want to get into music, especially when you got into the EDM and rock scene that you teach now at this School of Rock?
Dude, on the real, it was this thing where, so earlier on, I had the dream of, I want to be a drummer. I want to do things. First time I saw the drums come by in a parade, I was like, oh, those drums, I got to play them. I did that. I saw that vision. I saw it every night in my head before I went to bed. I had this vision. Got there, attained it, and then you get to the part in drum and bugle corps where, all right, age 21. Well, first it's like high school, you might go on to college marching band, but then after college marching band, there's no adult marching band, right? And after drum corps, you're at age 21, you're done, right? There's no more performing, right? And that it really does, I don't care who you are, it takes this effect and a hold onto you as a high caliber musician, precise, high caliber. I take this so seriously. This is what I want to reach. And then at age 21, it gets cut off, right? So the DJ part for me, whenever turntables came into my life, that gave me this feeling of the possibility of whatever it was. It was the same type of feeling that I got after playing that last note and my plume going like this in the drum line, and knowing that we just nailed the show across the whole organism that was the drum line, right? I don't want to say the feeling was replicated, but it was very similar, and I hadn't felt that type of connection to music since that point, right? And so that's really what drove me to expand upon it, was like I found happiness again in that music, man. It was more therapy, to me than anything. And to take it really deeper, I was just in an interesting place in life in that moment when I made the transition to that lifestyle. And quite frankly, at that point, it probably saved my life, Ramiro.
Really?
At that point, yeah, for sure.
That's really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, music has that kind of thing.
It does, man. It does. It's therapeutic, I mean, that's why I continue. That's why I continue. I mean, I feel like, here I am, age 41. And that's the tough thing about being a musician, right? Is like, I feel like if you're a musician, you have to understand that you're more than just a musician. You also have to be a teacher, because you're not going to make your money all the time being a musician, right? Just performing and playing, right? So as a musician in 2020, you have to understand that, all right, teaching is another outlet. Marketing is another outlet, right? Organization, time management, all of these things, come along with being a musician in this day and age.
Right.
social media, right? It's a whole, and that's the thing. I feel like I just want to expand upon this a little bit. As I did the DJ thing, you know, I did it for 10 years, and the second half of it ended up being me running my own record label where we put out a lot of music for a lot of artists.
That's right.
And when I got so involved with the influx of Facebook advertising, social media marketing, you know, I found that my time was, I was spending 80% of my time saying, hey, I represent music. I do music. I represent music. I do music. 80% of my time is saying I do music, right?
Right.
The other 10% of my time is living my life, right? Showering, using the restroom, sleeping, right? The other 10% of my time is maybe doing music, right? So what the thing that I from my experiences, I don't know that I ever found that balance in what it is to go out there on the road and be a successful musician. You know, I found that you know, there was one year where my record label put $5,000 into Facebook ads, and I played 150 shows. You know, so I don't know. I feel like it's and that was like the most successful year that I had.
I see.
So I don't know, but I feel like it comes in waves. You know, it's
For sure.
it depends on what you want to do with music. You know, because there's all sorts of things we can do with music. Are you here to help people? Are you here to, like, you know? And that's the thing, is that as life evolves, the purpose for what you're doing with your music can and will change.
Yeah. Actually, relating to that, what would you say, like, so you said that you had a pretty tough balance between your musical and personal life. Do you feel like you overcame any of those struggles, and like how so?
Yeah, you know, I feel like I'm overcoming them now, you know,
Okay.
every day. And I feel like by being forced to slow down, I was in a place where it was like, okay, you know, I was on the road playing shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, different cities. And then I would rush to home. I was living in Cincinnati at the time. I would rush home to be home by Sunday so I get my daughter, you know, and be father with my daughter on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, knowing that Thursday I'm leaving to go to town again. It was just this cycle, this hamster wheel, like 2.5 to 4 years, you know. It was just like that, you know. And so I don't know. I feel like it's this bittersweet thing, because for me, when I was going that fast, I was there with my daughter, you know.
Right.
But I wasn't, like, when you're going that fast, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday is when you have to be on point, you know, because I wasn't a big artist, you know, by any means. I wasn't on a bus. I was driving myself to each of these shows. And it wasn't until later on in the career that I started getting flown places, really, you know. And so it's just one of those things, man, to where it's, and I feel like it probably also depends on your scene too, right? I was in electronic music. Like, I wouldn't be playing until, if you're the headliner in electronic music, you're not going on until 1 o'clock at night, and you're playing from 1 o'clock until 2:30 in the morning. By the time you finish up at the end of the show, you're collecting your money and you're getting out of there. It's 3:30 in the morning. By the time you get to the hotel, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and guess what? You got to be up by 10 o'clock to be checked out by 11. You know, so it is a rigorous lifestyle of time management that, for me, yet has not been an attainable thing to success. You know, I feel like it takes a team of people, for sure, and it takes a team of people that trust you. You know, because ultimately, if you do go out there, no matter what scene of music it is, if you go out there and you get a little bit of notoriety, and people are like, oh, that dude's doing something cool. Oh, I see that dude's doing something cool. Maybe I could do something cool with them. And you know, at the time, you want to be like, yeah, I'm doing something cool. Everybody come with me. I'm doing something cool. Let's go do something cool together, right? And you want to be able to be like, yeah, I've got this army of, we're all doing something cool. This is my movement, right? But it's interesting because not everybody has put the same blood, sweat, and tears into getting to the point of even getting seen, you know? So, and it's easy for people to latch on and say this, you know, and it's real energy and truth are not the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I know that's kind of deep, but you know,
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's really insightful. Thank you. Okay, and then moving on, kind of unrelated. What benefits do you see in a formal music education, and what benefits do you see in a self-taught or informal music education? I'd say the School of Rock, the way they educate, at least from what I noticed, was more on the informal side of.
Yeah, it's interesting, bro, because it's 2020, and now there's so many different versions of music. I feel that there is something to be said about, you know, if you're going to be a musician, you know, you have to understand this. You know, if you really are wanting to be a musician, but also if you're really wanting to be a musician, you're willing to put in the discipline, right? You're willing to discipline yourself enough to manage your time, to put the practice in, to get better because you want it that bad, right? Where there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, I've got a guitar in my hands. It changes my self-image. I look cool to people that think I got a guitar in my hands that think I'm a musician. You know? So I feel like it's different categories of, right? But ultimately, if you're wanting to be, then you need to go place yourself into that place that is that formal training to get that caliber of education. You know, am I saying you don't need a degree? No, I'm not saying you don't need a degree. I think there's a lot to be said about going through that whole thing and getting your education through you know, the proper channels of people that have been educated and have their masters and doctorates in something that they've mastered along the way to get that piece of paper.
Okay.
And I feel like also there's a lot of music schools that hire underqualified staff of people that just graduated from high school that have no business teaching in a formal music setting.
Yeah,
right. So
I'll agree with that.
Yes, sir.
All right. What kind of basics would you say are necessary for every beginner percussionist and every beginner DJ mixer? Like, what kind of things do they need to know?
I mean, on both sides of it, metronome. If you don't understand timing, you have to understand timing. You have to be able to and that goes like DJ wise. You have to be able to bob your head in time because percussion wise, the drums is the backbone. It's like without percussion, it's like living in a human body without skeletons. Could you imagine if we didn't have skeletons and we were just literally flesh bags? That's what we would be without percussion. You know what I mean? Like the percussion is the skeleton. Okay. So with DJing, you have to beat match, right? So you have to understand your tempos. When you're DJing, the whole organization of your set is through BPMs and key, right? Because you want that seamless transition. So yes, metronome and practicing with the metronome and not avoiding the metronome and understanding that the metronome is your friend. And once you understand how to play with the metronome, you've mastered the understanding of how to practice. You will not understand how to practice efficiently unless you can practice with the metronome, period.
That's funny. I'm over here on the brass side of things, and that's exactly the same thing I've been told a bunch of times too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. Moving on. What is the most difficult part of being a musical educator, and what do you find most rewarding about it?
The most difficult part is when you have a kid that wants to be there but doesn't have a way to practice outside of the lessons. That's kind of like a heart-wrenching thing. And then another scenario that's a difficult part is when you have a kid whose parents really, really want to have their kids live their musical dreams through their kid's life. And the kid has no desire whatsoever to be there. That's difficult. But otherwise, I feel like difficulties in being a music educator, you know, like for me, dude, it is, it's like, for me personally, it's music education and life coaching, right? Because all of my best music educators have also been amazing life coaches,
Really?
right? And yes, for sure. All of my best music teachers have been open with me about scenarios outside of music in their life that helped mold them and that gave me, a perspective that I wouldn't have had they not opened up, So with that, I like to really, not hold back, open up from all the experiences, whether good or bad, that I've had, to share with my students, so that, hopefully they can, not go through those same type of things. And yeah, I feel like that's important. I feel like it's so important. But that's just me personally. Also, some people be like, bro, you need to stop it with that talking to your kids about life thing. They don't even know about life. You just need to worry about that A major scale and shut your mouth. But,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'll have to definitely agree with you there. It's my best teachers have been the ones that have been open.
Yeah.
Okay, and then kind of going back to where you were talking about your EDM career, what would you say that technology and social media, or how would you say technology and social media has affected and continues to affect your musical career?
Oh, bro, I'll tell you exactly. So I would not have had a successful DJ career had it not been for Facebook. And at the same point, Facebook and social media ruined my DJ career. Okay, because it is, we live in a day where ultimately information and opinions can be posted and shared, and then they can be seen, and then they can be shared, expanded, shared across the network. And if one person, makes one bad post about you that gets shared over 500 times, and then just, and there's it's interesting, bro, what can happen. I had that happen to me. Like I was doing this DJ thing, and then I wasn't.
Right.
It was just done because, a couple people got upset, and it just takes 3 or 4 people saying the same thing. And if you don't come back with some sort of rebuttal or the right post or the right wording, or your agent or your management or whoever it doesn't come back with the right, this is what you need to say to defend yourself, but it's also the same mentally, because for me it was difficult because I'd worked so hard on building these people's brand through their social medias, and these were the same people that had, they wanted to talk bad on me, shared this thing I wasn't able to rebut, within a week, because it just like threw me into this absolute emotional turmoil, that like people that I thought were loyal to what was going on and what we were trying to build would put my name in such a disgraceful manner in a public forum. And that happened. And just like that, it was done, and that, I learned I'm grateful that I went through it. I'm grateful that I went through it, because I learned so much about just like what is real and what is important, which, at least in my life. So yeah, social media is important. Social media is also wicked. Social media is the thing that wastes all of our time. It takes all of our time. Social media is the red dot. Oh, there's a red dot. There's something wrong. I got to go check on my red dot. Oh, there's a red dot. Oh, I got this red dot. I got to go take care of this red dot or I'm in trouble, right? It's this whole mental thing. And like, it's got us. Every single one of us, from my mom to me to you to our kids. There's a red dot, right? Which, might I add, there's a function on iPhones that if you 1, 2, 3 on the side button, on the power button, 1, 2, 3, it goes into black, white, gray mode, so you don't have to use color, which is very difficult to use.
Really?
because you're not always seeing the red dot. It's not difficult to use, but it's a different way of using it when you're not. You should try it sometime. Try the grayscale phone for a day and see how unstimulated you are, and just like how much you miss seeing that red dot, how much you just feed for that red dot.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to try that out. That sounds interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, yeah, I put this question in here for me. What are your thoughts on older forms of music like classical and orchestral? And do you value classical performance? And do you value live performance differently?
Man, so much more. So much more necessary now. Yes, I value it. I value it so much more now.
Sorry, I kind of worded that wrong. I mean, like, do you value, or how do you value that, and how do you value like live performance, like EDM and rock shows, and what similarities and differences do you find?
Live performance, like a jazz concert, you know, or an orchestra concert in a hall, where the hall is built for acoustics, right? Where it took so many people's hard work to have the structure to create the environments for grandioso musicians. You know, that's one thing. That is, you know, I mean, dude, that's just like, you know, that to me, that's humanity at its essence and at its finest, you know, especially when you're going into a hall. Nothing is mic'd. There's nothing coming out of speakers. This is pure sound, right? So there's that. And even with all of his blemishes or anything, you know, any of his human errors that we might hear, it's still perfection because we're in that moment, in that environment. It's, you know, it's okay. Whereas over here in EDM and bass music now, those kids have an ear for perfect sounding synthesized production that's engineered with every single sound placed exactly where it needs to be in the sound spectrum, from highs, mids, lows. You know, sounds that aren't instruments that are now in music, right? So instruments don't have the same flair to the new age ear as it once did, right? However, chords are the thing that has, you know, translated over, because there's definitely the tension and release, right? Tension and release. But I feel like that's the difference over here in EDM. Here in orchestra world, the lights are low. There's no production. The production is the live musicians all in tuxedos playing their perfect music. You know, Gustav Holst the Planets. Over here in EDM world, Bassnectar, you know, in some arena doing his 360 New Year's Eve thing. Here is 20 to 30,000 people in an arena. We're all basically high on modern day drugs, and we're all wearing our crazy psychedelic wear, and the speakers are so massive, and it's going to shake my entire body, and I'm going to see so many colors, and there's so many lasers. There's like, oh, I don't even know, $50 million worth of production, and this ticket cost me $250, and me and my friends got this hotel, and we made this road trip, right? So it's like, I don't know, which is cool, and it's awesome to see the evolution of technology, but I feel like when you're over there, the teaming there is, okay, all of these people that it takes to make one man look like a music monstrosity, right? One man pushing play on music that's not being played live, right?
I see what you mean. It's a different experience. Totally.
It is. It's a different experience completely. You know, it's still pushing tones, but it's like, you know, there's the difference of the energy of, and dude, don't get it twisted. I've experienced energy musically on both sides, because whenever I've been a dubstep DJ and I push play and I know something's coming up that's just gonna make the entire club go woo like this, and it's gonna make me jump up and down like this, like a madman. Like, you can't say that's not energy. You know, when you've got 50,000 watts of electricity, that is energy. pushing bass. That's energy. So, but yeah, they are not the same.
No.
So, but it's interesting. They're both, it's equally important. I wish we could get more of the kids going to Bass Nectar to attend their first Philharmonic concert. How amazing would that be?
That would be really awesome.
But I don't know if they have the attention spans to be able to be like, yo, son, we're going to go in there. You're going to sit there for 2 hours. You're not going to get on your phone. You're going to listen to this music. You're going to sit there. Right? We're just in that place now with society and what else has happened around us. That's why the music's even gotten to this point.
I see what you mean. Yeah. It's very difficult to find those I don't know, just energetic emotions in orchestra music, and it's very difficult to find the I don't know, the essential emotions in EDM.
Yeah. But with that being said, there's a lot of underground producers, Ramiro, that are studying the different frequencies, because over here in our culture, in Western culture, we're stuck on, C through B, right? We got our 8 notes, our keys, but
Right.
There's all of these tones that are actually in between there that we don't use, right? And it the main frequency is 432. So it's like dropping the frequency a couple of hertz to what they refer to as like a spiritual tone, a healing tone. And there's a lot of producers that spend their time. Dude, there's this guy that I know. His name's Kalia Scintilla. I played with him in Chicago. He's from New Zealand, producer from New Zealand. He's done the math with his tones at 431, okay, to where from his speakers, the tones and the way his room is calibrated, the tones will shoot out the speaker, and the way that they bounce and reflect off the wall. Do you know what a Merkaba is?
No.
A Merkaba is like when you have a pyramid triangle,
Right.
and then you have another pyramid triangle, but inside of itself. Look up Merkaba, Merkaba, right? It's sacred geometry math, Merkaba, right? But the frequencies, when they come out of the speakers and bounce, and the reflection will form a Merkaba around the room of sound.
In the chord structure?
It sounds like some really, bro, I can't see that with my eyes. You sound like you might be on drugs, man, type of thing.
No, I get what you mean. Like,
but it's also like, yeah, they're the science in healing tones is definitely being researched always.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel like, with that being said, the science of healing tones is something we are never, ever, 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 ever hear on the radio or be pushed to us at Walmart or Target or Kmart or Best Buy.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
At least we'll get it eventually.
But we'll still have all that murder music and the drug hip hop and.
Okay.
Anyway.
Kind of going off of that, how necessary have you found a deep knowledge of music theory to be in the daily life of a professional musician? You kind of touched on it earlier, but.
Ask me that one more time.
Like, how necessary have you found, like, to have like a big knowledge of music theory, like a deep knowledge of music theory, to be in the daily life of a professional musician?
Honestly, for me, I know that I can still expand upon my theory. I wish I had more than I did. But I feel like, it's necessary. It's necessary. It's like, that's whenever I'm sitting downstairs and I'm watching videos that are like learning myself. I mean, that's what it is. It's unending, man. There's so many options, right? There's so many different ways that the puzzle can come together. There's so many ways to explain form. It's so vital, man. It's like having a Rand McNally roadmap, before the internet and GPS came along. Lord forbid you would not go on the road without your Rand McNally road atlas, or we're not getting anywhere. You know what I'm saying? I'm scared to leave home without my road atlas, right? You'd be scared to leave home without your GPS, right?
Right.
That's the thing. It's like, how can you even think about diving off into doing anything musically day to day if you don't have your roadmap?
I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Next question. How involved are you in musical composition and creation? I know you've been working on what's it, Ableton and such.
Mhm.
And how important would you say that is or would you say that's an important step in a professional musician's career?
I think in this day and age, I think it's a valuable step. I think it's a valuable step because I feel like, when you have Ableton, you have a professional studio grade like industry standard studio in your fingertips, right? So,
Right.
you can do everything from the recording process to the mastering right there. With Max for Live, you can also sync your video clips up for live performance. You can perform out of it. So I feel like, yeah, what Ableton does is Ableton is just a digital instrument. It's a limitless digital instrument. It's advantageous to take in because it will allow you to expand upon your performance as a solo artist in ways that you never knew possible.
Okay.
Yep. But also, lots of bands, lots of jam bands are the way they're incorporating Ableton, and like they'll have a 4-piece band, and here's our main computer, and we're all synced up to this MIDI clock. It's the way of the future for sure. And with that, I mean, it's the way of the now. The way of the now.
Okay. And then oh yeah. So the last question, being separated from from the School of Rock and your students, like in real life, what do you miss most about teaching music in person right now?
What I miss most about it, I honestly miss being a drum teacher, and is when you're in the drum studio and you got 2 drum sets right there side by side, and you're just jamming out. One thing that I always look forward to in my lessons is letting the kid pick their favorite song. They know that they're gonna nail, so they can walk out of the room, feeling like Rocky Balboa with his world championship belt. I miss being able to deliver that type of like, high five and, yeah, you're doing a really good job, man. Keep it up. I feel like I'm unable to deliver that at the end of my lessons in a way that I'd like to. But at the same point, for School of Rock in particular, School of Rock is a blessing right now because with the School of Rock Method app that rolled out in October, and
Yeah.
the way that we're doing all of the lessons through Zoom, and we can do the screen sharing thing, it allows me to pull up the app, right there. I can pull up the exercises on my screen, like, so you can see it right here, while we're doing, and I can assign them on the back end. And with that, the way that they have their exercises, their songs, all the assignments, I can set up the percentage of, I usually set up at like 90%. All right, you need to get at least a 90% on this. And then that you can set the tempo. All right, you need to come within 90% of the tempo. Well, so you can drop it down 10 BPMs. It needs to be within 90% of that. You can make it easy, medium, or hard. Then you can set how many attempts, from 5 to 10 attempts. How many attempts do you get to nail this, right? And the app allows them to record. The app will record them when the kids are confident with that recording, and they have to record playing to a metronome while they're doing it, right? And then once they're cool with that, they submit it to me. I listen to it. I mark it off the thing, right? And the method books, the 5 method books, are hand in hand with the app, right? So right now, in this pandemic, man, those have been tools that have allowed me to, use my 45 minutes wisely and set them up with all my students at the beginning of this month, I was like, all right, we know we have the next 4 weeks. This is what this is going to be. All right. I'm challenging you to this, right? And I can set it up like it's a weekly game, right? Because that's the way a lot of these kids are, man. It's like, we're on the screens. We need to do something on the screen to keep our attention. So this has been something that, I hope anyway, gives them a way to level up their musicianship still while we're all at home. I think it is, for sure.
Okay.
I've only been doing it for a couple weeks now, man. So I feel like, in a few weeks, I'll let you know what kind of results I'm seeing overall.
Okay. Do you feel like this kind of teaching style is as rewarding, or I don't know, like just for you specifically? Do you feel like it's as good, or maybe almost as good as teaching in person?
No,
No.
it's not. It's not even the same ball game. Yeah, I feel like and what I talked to my kids yesterday, right? Because I'm teaching at the school in Lee Summit too, and there I have a Rock 101 group, which is 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and I had 9 of them in there last night, right? So it's 9 of them on the screen, and I feel like one thing that I feel before I get into a lesson this way is like this weird anxiety that I feel, inside before I have to push the button to go live, to present myself in this like on camera type of feeling way that did not exist in a normal lesson, So, and I was talking to the kids about that, just kind of opening up about, it makes me feel this way, because that was the first thing I asked yesterday. I was like, I was like, raise your hand if you're feeling any sort of stress. And literally all of them were just like, bing, and it's, so I don't know. I think like that, the group thing was cool. They got to see each other. We got to talk a bit, but it's just this thing to where right now with what's happening, we're still all trying to process and analyze. And when we're all used to processing and analyzing on ways of the past that are no longer relevant, right? We're all kind of like hitting this wall. So right. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that this version of this is here. It is not the same value. It is not the same energy. It is not the same quality. It is. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it. I don't want to downplay it at all because but if it's just like me personally, it's harder. It's harder, and I think that this happening right now, is really up to the individual child's parents. This is a test of how are you really as a human,
Mm-hmm.
For each of.
Yep. And I think that applies to everybody. Kevin, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I hear you. It was just the screen froze.
Yeah. I stopped talking and took a sip of coffee.
No, it's okay. All right. Well, on that note, I think I'll end off our interview here. It was really nice to see you again, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I think we should end on some sort of a high note, which is the fact that music and art were the things that have always got humanity through in times of desperation, and it's going to continue to do that same thing, my friend. So I wish you all the best of luck and will and light as you continue forward in your path to being an amazing music educator and performer yourself, my friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty.
Have a good time. Bye, buddy.